Welcome back again, folks, to the Think Fitness Life podcast. This week, we are going to be discussing the science behind the iron, the science behind your rep counts and your sets and different tension and time under tension and your cadence and when to do drop sets or when to do progressive tension, when to end something till failure. So we're going to dive into that today. But before we get started, Menchie, our lovely co-host, has some news he would like to discuss. So let it rip.
But this one more pertains to what we're kind of going to dive into today. And the title was, and it kind of grabbed me, didn't shock me, but it said osteopenia, the bone disease that is striking men 35 to 50 years old. So everyone's kind of heard of osteoporosis, and what it does is basically bone losing mineral, losing mass, becoming more brittle. But the process of getting to osteoporosis is measurements of this osteopenia, which is starting to happen in younger adults, not even women, where usually most osteoporosis occurs just because of their genetic makeup, their hormone differences. But now they're starting to see this in men. And the article went on to say it was like shocked men, but it basically said lifestyle, lack of exercise, and poor diet, as always, were the top things that were the cause of this. And to happen at a young age, they were finding that about 28% of younger men and then 26% of women showed signs of this osteopenia, which is now women are usually get it if they don't exercise and stay active, but now greater percentage of men. All that means is kind of what we're going to talk about. You have to do things that are going to make your bones strong and healthy. Eating a poor diet's not going to do that. Not working out and not putting your body through resistance is not going to do that. And if you let it keep going, it's going to have a greater risk of osteoporosis when you're or at a younger age. And this is a lot of to do with, how our habits have shaped, what we do today. And then just be cautious of, what are you taking into your body?
So how do they measure osteopenia? Like how do they put it on a scale?
It's usually you have to get either x-rays or MRIs to get it done.
Okay. Gotcha.
There's a certain level that you'll hit. And then if you hit that level, for the exact number, but once you hit that exact number, it then becomes osteoporosis, which means you're at a greater risk of losing it. So it's almost like pre-diabetic and diabetic, but for your bone.
Yeah, it's like a weakening of the bone already.
Which is not good. And that should be a call to a lot of that. The importance of exercise shouldn't be taken lightly. It is very important for overall health, and it plays a vital role. We can't just take something like that out. And the other great thing that there's no real medication that can help this. Like, you're going to eat a healthy diet with nutrient-rich foods and calcium and exercise. There's no magic pill that's going to magically put bone mass back into your bones. So I think that's one good thing that came out of this, is like there's not going to be an easy button or easy fix for this.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder what the article says that they think is leading to higher levels of osteopenia in earlier populations.
Oh, a big one it said was smoking and then alcohol. So basically, alcohol depletes us of all kinds of nutrients, especially in the bone. It leaches out of the bone. And, as young kids, we all drink and you go out. But if you're not combating that with a healthier lifestyle, problems.
Yeah, that's no bueno. A lot of people fail to weight train in an appropriate way. I see a lot of people, even some of my clients, when they're on their own, not really looking to raise the bar or looking to challenge themselves, but they almost just do a weight that isn't too light, isn't too heavy, but is just right. And the problem with the Goldilocks paradigm is you're gonna just be avoiding things that either don't give you the stimulus that you need because you can't turn it on yourself. You're going to be avoiding things that require you to exert a lot of effort or to problem solve and figure out a way to perform that movement pattern. And you're going to do things that are just right for you and based upon where you're at in your life, based upon past injuries or exercise history, limiting your new mobility. And I even hear people say, "Oh, I can't do that because I can't get so low." I'm like, "All right, well, let's focus on getting low." Um, I think it's really important for people to remember to exert yourself, lift something heavy, and specifically along with this article, when you weight train at heavier loads, you actually improve your bone density. So that would combat any early signs of aging or any osteopenia that you may be getting. Is like Menchie said, just diet and exercise. I mean, they do say it's true. You can't outwork a bad diet, so that you got to start there about what you're putting in your body. But it's also important that you're exercising regularly because then you won't be part of this category, this subcategory that's having earlier aging or earlier signs of aging when they shouldn't. So that's pretty sad. And with where our whole society is headed, it just gets more and more sad when you hear these big statistics about some of the stuff that shouldn't be going on.
Yeah, it's just you read it, you get frustrated. It's like, okay, how do we get our message out clear, and how do we help more people? And I think this, which was like great, I found it today, is going to go great with what we're going to discuss in the next 40 minutes of, okay, are we doing enough in our daily workouts programming, enough in to get an effect that's going to combat osteoporosis? Is it going to combat diabetes? Is it going to keep us healthy? Or are we kind of just working out and not getting a benefit from it or an effect? And I think a lot of people fall into that category when it comes to weight training. Is they're doing this program, it works for 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, then all of a sudden what's going on? It's not working anymore, but they're still doing the same workout and it's going to get the same results. It's like, no, you have to change stuff. You have to do different techniques.
Manipulate variables. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about variables. And I feel people don't know that enough nowadays. Like, and
No, I don't think they do it. And honestly, let's start really broad. Let's start with the science behind the workout. Let's say it's an hour. Both you and I can agree that we would spend probably 15, 20 minutes included in that in the beginning, right? 15 to 20 minutes in the beginning. Included in that is the warm up where we turn on our aerobic system. We increase our circulation, increase our heart rate, and increase our core temperature. From there, we go into a movement prep or a dynamic warm up where you are moving in different planes, overstimulating muscles so that they turn off appropriately, and turning on muscles that have been dormant. And then you want to do maybe this one's more movement prep or some type of warm up exercises to get going. And I know you and I agree. We start with the dead bug. We work on our ground all on our way up. So I love to start with the dead bug. Other people would argue to go from dead bug to bird dog to like a standing chop or lift. I think you're good with the dead bug, maybe a plank circuit, and then just kind of depending on what you're doing that day, something more specific to the day, whether it's squatting or deadlifting, maybe it's a hinge or a bodyweight squat. Maybe you're pressing and need to do some scap retraction work, or maybe you're doing some pulling that day and you want to warm up your hinge. We do some bands or some banded rows. That's kind of the science behind the the warm up. Would you
Yeah.
agree? Pretty much standard for you. Okay, so the main effect in this hour is to get a training effect. Our whole endeavor about spending an hour at the gym is so that we get benefits from our time for tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So, and this is probably where you can take the mic from this one, but you're looking for that training effect in that hour. So you warm up your body so it knows what's coming, so it can accept the next part of the stimulus, the next part of the workout. But let's talk a little about the science of exercise selection and how many exercises I would need to pick with sets and rep schemes to really get that benefit that I'm after for tomorrow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A big chunk. That's why I think a lot of people get absolutely confused. So I'm going to start with obviously the order of the exercises you want to pick. Large versus small muscle groups. Large, you're going to get a better overall training effect. You're going to train more body, more of the system. And with the large muscle groups, you want to pick multi-joint. You want to alternate push and pull. That's with upper body, lower body. You can do upper body sessions, lower body sessions, total body sessions. You can mix and match all of those. And then another big thing for exercise selection or order is you want to pick where you're weak at first and kind of make that a priority to get better at those, because that's where you're going to see some good adaptation. Obviously there's some exercises that are going to be staples for programs like squats and deadlifts, but a lot of people will kind of veer away from stuff that's really challenging for them or that's their weaker area. And I tell a lot of people that's where you're going to get the most adaptation and growth, and the body's really going to learn. So go off of that stuff. The next biggest thing I've always kind of had an issue with or heard people is, what do I do for sets and what do I do for reps? And there's so many different variations out there. There's your traditional 3x12. There's 4x12. You can go 5x5. Number of them, they all do work. The biggest thing that research has shown is at least a minimum of 3 sets will get the best effect, most adaptation, and overall benefit compared to 1 set versus 2 sets.
I'm glad you said that, because I remember reading this, and I think in the CSCS, that there was like a law of 25, and they were looking for a sweet spot of 25 repetitions in order to get adaptation or change. But I've done Wendler's 5-3-1 program. And I think it's a great strength program for anyone who hasn't tried it or heard of it. It's Wendler's 5-3-1 strength program. And it's basically like you cycle between sets of 5 repetitions, sets of 3 repetitions, sets of 1 repetition, and sets of 1 plus. And you can look up the program. I'm not going to explain the whole thing right now, but it's 3 rounds. It's 3 sets. And the first time I did it, I'm like, what the heck? Like, I just did 3 rounds of 5 at my percentage. Like, that's it? You know what I mean? And I go on and do some like accessory work. And then sure enough, next week I did 3 of 3 and then 3 of 1. And then I cycled it for a week, right? I did another 5, did another 3, another 1. And I was shocked that my strength was going up. And I wasn't like messing around it, because I was noticing improvements for a few weeks before I just ended up changing programs. But I thought it was fascinating that just in 3 sets of 1 rep or 3 sets of 3 reps, that was enough of a stimulus for my body to take hold of that and make changes. So that is really interesting. So the science shows that there's 3 rounds, right? Technically, and probably I guarantee somewhere in that it was about the window of opportunity to get those that work in. Like you couldn't do a set of 3 reps, wait 20 minutes, do another set of 3 reps, wait 3 hours, do another 3 reps, and then get benefits from that, right? Like it would have to be in a shortened window.
And yes,
is that correct?
You gotta have the stimulus right then and there.
So that's another point to mention when we talk about that training hour, is that we're trying to condense a lot of work down into a short amount of time so that our body makes changes with the little time that we spend in the gym. If we spend 5 hours in the gym, there's 168 hours in a week. We have 163 hours that we're not at the gym. So we have to really think of that when we think about our intensity. We think about our rest in our periods. We think about how much we talk to other people at the gym, and we think about how much we dilly dally. We're on our phones. So I'm just trying to put it in perspective for people. But 5 hours of working in the gym to make changes every day and every week versus 160 total per week. But okay, so back to
that's always been a
sets
big
and rep
issue.
selection.
I personally kind of come from a camp of I've done the 3 sets. I'm more of a 4-set kind of person. Like,
oh hell, I fucking know. I hate it. It's brutal.
It's funny because a lot of people who've trained with different people or different aspects they're like, oh, why 4? Or I've always done 3 sets of this. And sometimes like our body will always adapt to aspects. So if you do 3 sets of 10 over and over again and you don't change the weight or you don't change the repetitions, you're training to that 3 sets of 10. That's 30 reps. Add another 10 reps on that to get to 40 total. You're adding over total volume in more. But I think that 4th set is more beneficial than that like 3rd set. Like, if you,
I totally agree. I totally agree. I'm one of those persons that you were just using the example of, that I used to do 3 sets of everything for years. And the first time I worked out with Menchie, I was dying. And then I was a lot sore. I was a lot more sore from that week. And it took my body a while to get to adapt. And I was honestly having the thought the other day about like, when am I going to start writing 5x5 or 5x4 on these workouts? You know what I mean? So it is really interesting because the same way that your body adapts to 3 sets and, evolves to its stimulus that you've been putting on it for so long, the same thing's going to happen with 4 sets. And eventually you're going to have to change your training volume.
I always recommend 4 to 5 sets of something. Unless it's high reps. If you're doing 15 reps, like you could do 5 sets of 15. Go for it. That'd be fine. But you can get away with 3 sets of 15 at an appropriate weight. And I think that's the next biggest issue I get, or a lot of people get, is okay, what is the right resistance to pick? And there's so many variations out there. You need to have that load placed on the body for the body to adapt. If it's the same load that you've done for the past 3, 4, 5 weeks, and you're doing your traditional, okay, I'm going to do a warm up at say 100 pounds, and then 3 sets of 10 at 120, and you don't change that, after that second week, your body's going to need a little more stimulus because it knows how to lift 10 reps at 120 pounds. So that's the next thing you have to progressively add resistance to weighted exercise
in some fashion. So there's multiple ways that you can add that resistance. But one thing I think we should also mention is sets and reps for thinking of quality of reps as well. So that they can kind of coincide. So if you're doing 15 reps of something or 20 reps of something and their body weight, you can probably get away with doing 1 set of, even 60 reps, right? Or you could do 2 sets, you can do 3 sets, sure. But you probably shouldn't do like 10 sets, right? Because that's just overkill. But if you're doing something super heavy for like 2 reps, yeah, you could do 1 set if you've done some working sets up to that point and you'll get some training effect. But that's a point where you probably should do, 5, even 8, 10 sets of 2 reps. If you're just going in and working on like submaximal and maximal loads, that's how you'll see better adaptation. So we can kind of coincide 2 things here. You can kind of coincide the rep range with the sets, but also I remember have this conversation with you at one point about like the science behind the quality of reps of the movement. Like there's a certain point when form integrity breaks down where you're not
Correct.
even
And they'll
getting
be
anything
and
out of it.
that's based off of percentages. So say you're at a 85 to 95%, which is a heavy max or close to max. Appropriate number of repetitions is 3 to 6 reps. Anything over that, you're going to kind of really be pushing and stressing the system. And within that, for good quality strength, that's what your focus is. Your total quality reps is going to be probably 10 good ones, but you can work in a range from 6 to 14 total reps. And then as you drop down, say you want to go more hypertrophy, you can decrease the percentage. You're going to have less weight, but you can range to 10 to 20 reps. You're going to get some good quality reps in those sets, and you're going to hit anywhere from 12 to 30 reps total.
Is there a table or a name for this that someone could look up?
Yes. It's the Prilepin's chart, and that's based off percentage and optimal reps for quality and then total rep range. And it all depends. And this kind of will get geared more towards if you're looking to get really strong, and we'll take a 5x5, which is total 25 reps, which is really good if you want to get strong. But you understand if you're going heavy weight, some of those 5 reps aren't going to be quality reps.
Right.
So if you drop to a 6x3 or a 7x3, you're going to get better quality reps for strength than the 5x5.
Right.
And I've seen that work a lot more for the strength side. 5x5 can be more hypertrophy because you're getting up into that 25 rep range at a certain weight. But that's one way to look at it. If you're looking at really strong, that's a very good way to see. Okay,
it's a great chart to use, and it's so say the name one more time.
Prilepin's chart. If you go to Google,
and I found it so people can look it up. It's Prilepin chart. Prilepin chart. Prilepin's chart. His chart. But yeah, it is a really good reference.
And it can kind of tell you where your volume is going to be. Is it going to be high, low, how many reps you can do? And that's a good way to, if you're starting out programming or training or coaching, use that chart for, this is what I want to do. This is what I want people to kind of fall in. So you're not burning people out or overtraining them.
Yeah. And this is perfect because we've handled the warm up. We're in that hour block, right? Like we're basically designing the perfect workout. We've done our 15-minute warm up. We've picked bigger body movements or compound movements, also larger muscle groups like legs, hamstrings, quads, or glutes, or back, or chest. And we've talked about sets and reps. We talked about starting with their bigger movements first. Let's talk a little bit about the science kind of in the session. Let's talk about primary work versus accessory work. And let's talk about where our body is at energy level wise and metabolically at this point.
So usually in the beginning, I'll go two different routes. Sometimes I'll go more metabolically conditioning if I really want to drive that effect in, or you can go more strength work. If you're going on the more strength work and lifting, this is where you want to pick your powerful exercises, the one that would take a lot of energy and kind of zap you, because you want to put effort towards that to get better at that. So these are your bigs, your squats, your deadlifts, if you're powerlifting or any of your Olympic liftings,
your head cleans,
snatches,
cleans,
box jumps, any stuff where you're really trying to get good at and have max output at the beginning, you're going to work on more quality. If you put that towards the end of a workout, which you absolutely can do, but at the end, it becomes a more of a conditioning aspect, saying, okay, can I sustain this repetitive and not break down form? Obviously, you're not going to do that at the end with max heavy weight, but that's one big thing I have seen a lot of people do is they'll come in, they'll do some smaller stuff first, and then they're like, oh, I'm at the end, I'm going to hit my heavy squats or my deadlifts. It's like, no, you got to
Right.
flip that because you want to get more activation, more neuromuscular work from those big muscles first, then do the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you're not going to be cognitively a little tired, fatigued, and not going to be able to focus appropriately, as well as also perform because it takes energy to be focusing and doing work at the same time. Oh, the other important piece is that you're going to be depleting your glycogen storages at this point. This is why I wanted to combine these two in discussing this part of the workout, and the science behind primary and secondary work, because you're also going to be depleting your energy, your stored glycogen. So your Krebs cycle's turned on. You're not going to be able to get that fast delivery ATP as much and as fast as you were in the beginning of the workout. So you're just not going to be able to perform your best. Wouldn't you agree?
Totally,
Okay,
100%.
cool.
That's how I program time. Even working out with you, I program that in just because that's where your big focus on. That's where you want to get your adaptations. Go for that stuff. Now, there are aspects where there are techniques where you can do pre-fatigue work. That is fine, but that is more of an advanced kind of bodybuilding style. And all that is say
Yeah.
we're doing a bench press. And before the bench press, you take a pair of dumbbells and you do a set of 10 to 12 flies. You're pre-fatiguing the chest. Then you go do your bench press. In essence, they're saying, okay, well, if I pre-fatigue the chest, I'm going to get more arms. I'm going to get more development. That's one way to do it. For most people, that is very fatiguing, and you're going to be under high amounts of stress. So it's not really for the general public. I don't really recommend that a lot. Get your quality reps in the big exercise and get good at that.
Yeah, and it's probably is important to mention that everything we're talking about, this workout, this 60-minute workout, and the science behind it all, is geared towards like bodybuilding or body composition changes, as well as strength and obviously improving your cardiorespiratory system. So it's really more just like it's a general approach to the workout. And what you're talking about is bodybuilding. If you're really trying to worry about the nitty gritty details and get perfect muscle development, and you're about to step on stage and compete and stuff like that. But for general, just like body composition changes and looking good and feeling better, you'll still get that effect just by with everything we're talking about in this workout. And some of the other techniques that go along with improving the hypertrophic progress or gains are progressive tension, increasing the weight between every set, shorten rest periods, so just improves your time under tension. Along with time under tension, they talk about your tempo increasing for hypertrophy. So you want to do more of like a two up, three down versus like a one up, zero down, or one up, one down. And then strip sets, drop sets. Those are all techniques that are really good for getting body composition changes. Things where you are that's your last set and you're pulling weight off in a step by step manner. As you step down in weight, you go up in reps essentially, and just keep going more and more reps until you've probably maxed out. Or then you do a drop set where you can just pick like one or two drops, and you're basically just going to failure again. But that's why I think it's also important to just do something body weight. If you do something body weight at the end of your workout, after you've done your primary work, after you've done your secondary work, and you finish like that same muscle group, or maybe you just did a heavy push day, you're just finish with some push-ups, or you just squat or deadlift, and you want to finish with some walking lunges. Going to failure does a lot of different things. Obviously challenges you cardiovascularly, obviously challenges you mentally to have to hit a wall and keep pushing through it. But you're going to help your movement patterns improve. You're going to help get more blood to the area to help with growing the sarcoplasm, the casing of the muscle. You're going to help pump the muscle as well to help with repair any of the tissue that you've been damaging throughout the workout. And it's just overall good way to keep good,
And
clean movement
that's
patterns.
one big thing that you've read a lot of books or articles on, is reaching that part of failure. Like, you want to get to failure. It doesn't have to be some science, and we'll say you can get to failure every set and still get adaptations. But if you're not really training to failure, those last 4 to 5 reps are really, I've read some books like the developmental reps, is that's where you're getting your body to be like, hey, I have to change because you really stressed my system. And that's what basically what we want to get to. Homeostasis loves to stay balanced. We love to stay in this kind of zone. We need to,
Back to the Goldilocks.
you got to have that stress. So if you're doing reps that are easy and you're not really, your brain's not like threatened by that, or this doesn't feel good, or I'm struggling, that's where a lot of most people should start to train to, especially if they're not seeing changes.
and 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 heavy versus light can still be difficult. You can still make light difficult. You can still, obviously heavy is more innately difficult. Um, you can make heavy easy again, right? But when it effort matters, intensity matters, and just having the right mindset. And this is, it's funny how we come full circle, because we told ourselves that we were going to talk about
Never.
like just gym stuff and exercise, but Think Fitness Life, like, it's just, I know, right? I Think Fitness Life, this is just our brand, and this is what we speak to, because your mindset plays a huge role in this part. If you tell yourself, I'm going to do as many push-ups as I can, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to keep going, I'm going to want to fail, and I'm going to want to keep going, I'm going to literally keep going until my body can't go anymore. Having that mindset versus I'm going to go until I can't go anymore, like just when it hurts and stopping, having that mindset difference allows you to get that work in and allows you to get those adaptations and get those changes. And I know for me, little side note here, I know for me, I had really bad social anxiety and somewhat, little depression. The gym was healing for that, but it was also a learning place where I had to learn to fail and learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable and learn to accept my failures as the largest areas for success. And when I came into Equinox, they said, "What do you want? What quote do you want on your little picture tablet thing?" I said, "I want failure, success, and progress," because that was the best thing that sat with me to understand that I have to go to failure. It's part of the process. And it was less about my ego being involved or less about feeling like I am a failure, because shit, I've missed on weights that I've wanted to hit, and I've cried. I've teared up because I haven't hit them. And I've also teared up because I've hit PRs. So it's a fucking emotional thing. So you got to accept that you're just going to fucking push yourself, and it's win or die. And you put that constraint on you, and you're not going to die, but you put that constraint on you, and you're going to work your fucking ass off, and you're going to get the results that you want, that you've been striving
and
for.
look at, we were just talking a little bit earlier about this athlete you're training, and he's done stuff before, he's had training, and you come to you and you kind of put him on a different program. And I'm not to say there's right or wrong programs, but every person's a little bit different and they respond different. And when you get someone to be like, oh, I mean, this program was not like hard because I couldn't do, but like mentally challenging, that's when you know, because like, hey, all right, we can kind of push your boundaries of your comfort zone and get you better throughout. And I tell some people need more stimulus, some people need more volume than other people. there's not this one 4x12 or 4x10 or 3x12, 3x15. They work for different people in different ways. I'm kind of the person who needs more volume. I need more total volume in a workout. So I have to go high, a little bit higher reps, higher sets sometimes than say someone who can go 3x12 and get the same effect. So you have to also understand that everyone's a little bit different, and you got to go to these places where it's, hey, this isn't going to be good, and challenge yourself, but understand that you have to find these programs that are going to do that. And then you kind of realize, okay, was I leaving some potential on the table, like the said athlete? And, with that, it's going to be good for you to kind of get him into different zone.
Yeah, it's important to mention that Menchie and I wrote this program in like 3 hours of phone
Like, what, 2
conversations.
days?
Um, yeah, and just back and forth and like grinding it out too. Like I remember being tired, just being like, "Dude, let's just do the rest of this another time." So and this is such a badass program, and I love the fact that I used to be really self conscious about using the same program over and over and over again. Right, like I was really important to me to design specific programs for everybody. But when you get somebody who's had a lot of consistent work their whole life and someone who has great movement patterns and someone just wants to get better at generally everything, you have more of a baseline. And now I've done this workout in this whole series for probably 10 different people in 4 to 6 week spans. And it's cool to see, now that's been a control variable. And now the variable that's been changing is the people. And it's been cool to see how it changes.
Yeah. And small
Different people,
tweaks here and there
essentially.
for different people. And it's, it's amazing how you put together the stuff and it comes together and you're just like, man. And then other people do it and they're like, holy shit.
So, that is kind of
Yep.
important to mention. So let's go back to our workout. We did the warm up, we did the primary work, we did the accessory work, we did something till failure. Um, we need to cool down somehow. So I know a lot of people like to end with some type of energy system development, whether that be like a 500-meter row, 1,000-meter row, or some type of interval type
Just good. I was just say
thing. It's good.
with that, with people pairing energy system development, just make sure you're also, your goal of the day, look at your whole program and understand, okay, what systems are we working today? Are we working alactic, lactic, or aerobic? Something like a 3x15.
I was just gonna mention, yeah.
If you were going there, sorry, I stole your thunder.
No, it's perfect. I'm glad you
But
said
some
it.
people will go, okay, all right, let me do a 5x3. Let me get strength in, strength in, strength in. And then they go train, the lactic system or aerobic system. It's like you gotta pair it up. So if you're training strength, you're training the anaerobic system. That 3 reps you're gonna do is not gonna take you more than 10 seconds to do. You get on a bike, you sprint for 10 seconds. If you're doing 15 reps, that's more time. You can work higher range of maybe upwards of 30 seconds. So just be people.
And you can totally do 2, 3 reps and then go 3 minutes on a bike, but both your systems are going to be exhausted. You're going to need rest before
And
the
it's,
next
if you
round.
want it to be more conditioning, you can do that. Aspects of quality of what you want to train, because you don't want to be competing systems and trying to develop strength and power, and then you're trying to develop conditioning at the same time. That's why periodized programming has its place, because one day you train power, the next day you train lactic system, the third day aerobic system. That's kind of how we program. We've developed our systems.
Yeah, that kind of sums up the science of it all. You would probably also want to
Mhm.
add in a cool down, some sort of stretching, or animal flow or yoga. something where you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system and opening up your body more versus everything we do when we are weight training or producing a lot of power. A lot of it just tends to be flexion of all of our muscles, so it tends to close us down. So we want to do something where we open up, cool down, animal flow, yoga, Pilates, what
Yeah,
have you, stretch.
that's a lot on your
And then
your central nervous system, your autonomic nervous system. Like, let that thing just come down and try to shut that off as best you can. Is very key.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I want to mention, just because this has kind of been a plethora of facts about the science of the exercise or the science of the workout, and we've really built like a perfect, um, way to construct your own workout. Thinking of the theme, once you've kind of understood what energy system you're working, or whether you're going to be doing strength or metabolic work. Law of specificity. So think, what would you want to strengthen and improve movement patterns for if you're going to be playing soccer, right? Probably more of your legs. What are you going to be doing if you're going to be more of a baseball player? Probably a lot of rotational work, probably a lot of core work, and probably a lot of upper body stuff, right? So design your workout with a purpose and a focus, will help you gain results from it, because there's context and your body can learn in that. Just the same way that if I tell you a random fact and ask you to repeat it, you're not going to recite it back to me unless I gave you some sort of context for it, and you might remember it, type deal. Same way that your body holds on to information. So that's the last thing I want to say.
I think the final thing kind of going along with this is just for when people are programming, is beware of the detraining effect. And people think of detraining as, oh, I'm taking time off, weeks off, months off, a year off, which true, that is detraining. But a big thing people might be detraining and they don't even realize it is just an overall reduction in training volume. So they're going for, these hard workouts for, 5 weeks, and all of a sudden stuff's coming up and they're starting to change everything. So they went from 3x12 to 3x8 and they're reducing volume. You just got to be careful of, as you reduce the volume, you have to obviously progress forward up the weight, but you can't reduce the volume too much, because then you'll start getting into a detraining effect. And then it's kind of like you're going back and forth. It's like detraining, then you up it, you're training again, you kind of come back, you're detraining. You got to let your body grow and progress. So just another mindful thing to be aware of, that you can detrain, you can overtrain, which will have you detrain too. And people will see stuff like muscle loss. They'll gain some weight sometimes from detraining or overtraining, because everything's starting to change back. And it happens quick. Unfortunately, the process of the body, it's tough to put all this effort into it. The body, if you're not going to use it, it's not going to keep it. So it kind of changes fiber types and changes systems progressively over time. But just be aware of you can detrain pretty quick. And, if you're not changing stimulus, that detrain, you can basically be training a detraining program, which doesn't sound great, and you're not going to benefit from it.
What it made me think of is the law of diminishing returns. But yeah, well said, well spoken. That pretty much summed us up, though. I think we can finish there.
Yeah. Unless you got anything else, I
think that's the best closing statement, basically. Because so many people are stuck in that rut.
Totally. It's hard. It is a constant daily struggle. It takes mental fortitude to go through and progress. It takes, when you're doing something shitty and you don't want to do it, and you're like, okay, I'm going to kind of suffer through this. There's always, kind of goes back to mindset. There's always, okay, why am I doing this? Because I want to be healthier, because I want to live longer. I want to have quality during life now and later on. And I want to kind of go back to the beginning. I basically want to slow down diseases from attacking and killing me shorter on. I mean, that's my end goal.
Yeah, totally. Totally. All right, well, that wraps us up this week, and we'll catch you guys next week. And remember, we're always here for you guys.